You know what's louder than a woman's voice? Her confidence. And that, my friends, scares the world. Hello everyone, today let's talk about something powerful, bold, and necessary. Why do some men fear confident women? Not dislike, not misunderstand, fear. Let's be real, confidence in women is often seen as defiance. A confident woman doesn't wait for permission. She doesn't need validation. She walks into a room and owns it, unapologetically. And that's intimidating. But why? For centuries, societies around the world have been shaped by systems that prioritize male authority and control. These systems have been built on the assumption that men lead while women follow, that men speak while women listen, and that power, in all its forms, belongs to men by default. When a woman steps forward with unshakable confidence, she doesn't just assert her individuality. She disrupts this deeply embedded structure. A confident woman does not seek permission to exist or succeed. She does not ask if her voice matters. She knows it does. This kind of presence threatens the traditional roles where women are expected to be submissive, agreeable, or silent. Her ambition, her refusal to shrink herself, and her fearless pursuit of goals become symbols of defiance, not because she's doing anything wrong, but because she's doing what men have always done without apology. Her confidence rewrites the rules of engagement. It forces those around her to confront their own biases. She challenges the notion that leadership must look or sound a certain way. She redefines success not just for herself, but for every woman watching her. In doing so, she becomes a living contradiction to a world that told her to stay small. It's not that confidence in women is rare, it's that it's often punished or misunderstood. But every time a woman stands tall and refuses to back down, she chips away at the old power dynamic. She becomes proof that power can be shared, not hoarded, and for those who have always relied on a system that favors them, that change can be terrifying. Confidence in a woman isn't a threat to society. It's a threat to the limits society once imposed, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. When a woman is confident, she becomes a force of her own. She doesn't wait for someone to define her worth, and she certainly doesn't allow others to dictate how she should think, act, or feel. This kind of independence is uncomfortable for those who are used to being in control, because confident women can't be molded, manipulated, or managed. She makes her own decisions, not out of rebellion, but from clarity. She knows who she is, what she wants, and what she deserves. This internal compass makes her immune to many of the tactics used to suppress or silence women: guilt, shame, gaslighting, or the need for approval. She doesn't crave validation because her confidence comes from within, not from the applause of others. For some men, especially those raised to equate masculinity with dominance, this is deeply unsettling. They may not consciously fear her, but they feel it in subtle ways: an unease, a challenge to their sense of superiority, a discomfort with her autonomy. She doesn't seek to please, flatter, or obey. She listens, but she questions. She loves, but not at the cost of her self-respect. Attempts to control a confident woman usually backfire. She won't stay in a relationship, a workplace, or a friendship that tries to reduce her. She speaks up when something feels wrong, and she walks away when her boundaries are crossed. This level of self-trust is rare, and it's often mistaken for arrogance or attitude, but in truth it's simply power, and power that doesn't beg, bow, or break is threatening to those who never expected a woman to hold it. Control is no longer an option, and for many, that's the scariest thing of all. Because a confident woman doesn't just break free. She inspires others to do the same. Confidence in a woman has a way of acting like a mirror. It reflects everything, especially the insecurities of those around her. When she walks into a room with her head held high, owning her presence without apology, it challenges the people who are still unsure of themselves. It's not that she intends to make anyone uncomfortable. Her very existence just makes it harder for others to hide from what they lack. Insecure men, in particular, may find this deeply unsettling. A woman who is sure of her worth doesn't flatter egos or play small to make someone else feel big. She doesn't pretend to be less intelligent, less ambitious, or less capable to make anyone comfortable. And for those who measure their value by how much control they have over others, her confidence becomes a silent accusation. It says, "Why are you threatened by strength?" She doesn't point fingers or boast, but she forces others to confront their internal dialogue. If a man has been conditioned to believe that his worth is tied to being stronger than a woman, then meeting a woman who doesn't need him, but chooses herself anyway, can be jarring. Her independence becomes a spotlight, unintentionally highlighting every crack in his own self-esteem. What makes her so powerful is not just that she knows who she is, but that she doesn't shrink to protect anyone else's fragile identity. She moves through the world unbothered, and that kind of self-assurance is something many wish they had. Instead of being inspired, the insecure see her as a threat, because she exposes what they haven't faced in themselves. She doesn't have to say a word. Her confidence says everything. And sometimes the truth people see in that mirror is exactly what they've been trying to avoid. There's a quiet power in a woman who doesn't seek approval, but demands respect. She's not performing to be liked, not adjusting herself to fit into someone else's idea of who she should be. She shows up as she is, whole, unfiltered, and unwavering. And that unsettles people, especially those who are used to women softening themselves for acceptance. When a woman no longer asks, "Do you like me?" and instead asserts, "You will respect me," the dynamic shifts. Approval is conditional. It comes and goes based on behavior, appearance, or how well she fits into a mold. Respect, however, is non-negotiable. It is rooted in recognition of her humanity, her intelligence, and her value. Many people are comfortable with women who smile through discomfort, who stay silent to keep the peace, who ask for validation before speaking their truth. But a woman who isn't interested in pleasing anyone, she challenges that comfort. She doesn't apologize for being direct. She doesn't water down her ambition or dull her light, and she doesn't wait for permission to be powerful. In personal relationships, this kind of woman is often labeled too much or difficult. Not because she is, but because she won't be minimized. In professional spaces, she's called intimidating for simply expecting to be treated with fairness and equality. But she's not asking for special treatment. She's asking to be seen and respected on the same level as anyone else. What makes her different is that she knows she's enough without external applause. Her sense of self isn't up for debate, and when she carries herself with that kind of certainty, people are forced to either rise to meet her standards or step aside. Because she'll never settle for being liked if it means being disrespected. For too long, femininity has been confined to a narrow definition: soft, passive, delicate, agreeable. Society taught women that to be feminine meant to be quiet, nurturing, and always accommodating. But a confident woman flips that definition on its head. She proves that strength and softness can live in the same body, that empathy doesn't cancel out ambition, and that being feminine doesn't mean being fragile. She doesn't hide her strength to appear more ladylike. She embraces it. Her voice is strong not because she's trying to be loud, but because she refuses to be silenced. She can command a boardroom and cradle a child in the same breath. She can lead with assertiveness and love with depth. This kind of woman shows the world that femininity isn't weakness. It's a different kind of power, one that doesn't need to mimic masculinity to be valid. When she walks in heels, she walks with purpose. When she wears lipstick, it's not to impress, it's to express. Everything she does is for herself, not for the gaze or approval of others. That authenticity breaks the outdated mold of what women are supposed to be. It gives permission to other women to show up as their full selves unapologetically. She challenges the stereotype that being emotional is a flaw. She turns vulnerability into courage. Her presence sends a message. Being feminine doesn't mean being submissive. It means being real, being whole, and owning every part of who she is. This redefinition unsettles those who still believe femininity must come with obedience, but she's not here to be anyone's version of a good girl. She's here to be herself, complex, powerful, beautiful, and bold. In doing so, she doesn't just redefine femininity, she reclaims it. A confident woman doesn't enter a relationship looking to be led. She's looking for someone who can walk beside her. She doesn't need saving, fixing, or controlling. She's already whole. What she desires is partnership, mutual respect, shared growth, and emotional equality. That expectation alone unsettles anyone who believes relationships are about power rather than balance. She brings her own identity to the table and expects her partner to do the same. She isn't threatened by ambition, nor is she intimidated by independence, because she embodies both, and she expects her partner to honor those traits, not suppress them. She doesn't want someone to take charge of her life. She wants someone who has their own life and chooses to share it with her. This kind of woman doesn't play small to make someone else feel big. She doesn't pretend to be less capable just to fit into outdated relationship dynamics. She values emotional intelligence, accountability, and open communication over control or authority. She sees love as a collaboration, not a hierarchy. Some men find this difficult because they've been taught to equate masculinity with dominance. When they meet a woman who refuses to be ruled, they feel challenged, not because she is challenging them directly, but because her expectations demand growth. She won't settle for surface-level connection or one-sided effort. Her standards aren't based on control, but on depth and mutual respect. She's not asking to be led, she's asking to be met. And that terrifies those who don't know how to meet someone in their full power. But for those who do, being with a woman like her isn't a threat, it's a gift, because when partnership is built on equality, both people rise. That's the kind of relationship she lives for, nothing less.